It's a beautiful day today and a beautiful day to read some more fun but also terrifying stuff. I hope you guys are having a good day today and I hope you're ready for this. I woke up ready for this today. I can't wait to get into it. As always, if you enjoy, make sure you subscribe if you want to. Enjoy, guys. The first one that we're going to read is called Mum is Visiting Me from Out of Town. I yelled at her because she comes into my room every morning and pulls my blankets off to wake me up. Oh my god. So annoying. I'm in my 30s and I'm perfectly capable of getting up for work. I've been waking myself up on time since I was a kid. She keeps insisting that she thought that I was going to oversleep. I'm married and I often sleep nude. She often tells me how helpless I am and that she should move in with me to help me with basics, like waking me up on time and laundry and stuff, which is extremely patronizing. This needs to stop, but she disregards me when you tell her to stop. What the hell? Oh, that's so bad, and I'm so sorry, OP. That sounds so frustrating. You need to get your mum out of there. If she's not going to listen, she has to leave. That's so bizarre, though. Like, why does she feel like you can't get yourself up on time? And that's bad enough and weird enough the way it is, let alone with you sleeping naked. Yeah, like the top comment says, not the a-hole. Sounds like she needs to find alternative accommodation. The comment below that says, it sounds like that's what she's trying to do, a sneak to move in with OP by making her feel like she can't do it without her. Sucks for her because it's clearly having the wrong effect, not the a-hole. Yeah, that could definitely be true too. Like, oh no, you need help even doing the basics. You need me here. This comment says, so wait, you're married? She comes into your bedroom and pulls the covers off you and your partner? Consider yourself lucky. I'm pretty sure I'd be an orphan the first time that happened at my house. Yeah, that's a good point too. Is your partner in the bed? What's going on here? But also, like that other comment said, if she is trying to do that to make sure that she stays, she's having the complete opposite effect. You need to get her out of your house ASAP, OP. Yeah, also this comment. I'll tell her straight up that if she does that again, then she'll need to find a hotel for the rest of her visit. No arguments. Remind her again before bed this evening. Yeah, you need to put your foot down here, OP. Yeah, I can't even get over how bull that is. Good morning. And rips off your bloody blankets. Your mum is so lucky that you've been so polite to her, OP. But yeah, you have to stop tolerating it. Post number 2 is called, Am I the gay hole if I don't give anything to my stepkids after my husband's death? My husband passed away 7 months ago. I'm 30 and he was 41. He has 2 children, 10 female and 11 male with his ex, and we have a 2-year-old together. His ex has always been a nightmare to deal with. She's talked badly about us since day one, but luckily it never impacted our relationship with the kids. We only got them every other weekend, so I've never really been a parental figure to them, but we have always had a good relationship. His ex has been contacting me and seems to think that her children should get half of everything. Like, she wants me to sell the house and I just don't get it. I could see if he was worth millions of dollars, but he wasn't. We were very comfortable, but not wealthy. Like, am I horrible if I don't sell off and split everything down the middle, all the way down to checking and savings? I really want to do the right thing, but I don't know if this expectation is reasonable. I told them they could have any personal items they wanted. His ex will never let them come over now that she doesn't have to. I told them if they ever need anything or they want to reach out, my number will be the same, and we do text every once in a while. I'm still pretty young. It's not like we were elderly and I'm a few years away from death where the expectation would make more sense. They both have college accounts. It's not a crazy amount, but should I add some to it regularly? It would be less, but still, please let me know if I'm wrong because I genuinely want to know. OP left a comment that said, I have a lawyer. Legally, I get everything. My thought was that since I'm hopefully not dying anytime soon, that they should be entitled to assets that their father contributed to, like our house when I die, which could be 50 years away, and life can change so much in that period of time. I just feel like I'm still here and I have less of an income, and I still have to pay every bill without his income. The comment below that says, listen to your lawyer, don't listen to Reddit. You have a life to live and a child of your own to raise. Get your own oxygen mask in place before you start worrying over anybody else. This comment says, the right thing to do is to talk to a lawyer and potentially set up a trust for the kids that you pay into over time for the amount that you think they're entitled to. That way the ex doesn't have access to it and you're still taking care of your husband's kids. As a father, I'd be turning in my grave knowing that I've worked my whole life and that isn't being used to take care of my family. This comment says you need an attorney. If there's no will, you need some advice. Yeah, definitely. But yeah, of course, his kids do need to get something. But also, of course, this wasn't planned. You don't want what's going to go to the kids to end up going to the ex-wife. OP left a comment that said there isn't much to the estate, and that's exactly what doesn't make sense to me. I could remarry and have more children or move. Realistically, what am I supposed to do? Keep them in my will when I probably won't have a relationship with them until I I die, if I sold the house in the next few years, I'd have no problem giving them part of the money. Yeah, I can sort of tell that you're gonna do the right thing, OP. Also, sorry for your loss too, that's so sad. Yeah, there's a lot of comments like this one too. You make it fun for the kids as suggested with whatever you can. Also buy a few trunks and fill them with clothes and pictures and any other possessions of your late husbands to give to his kids when they're adults. Yeah, I suppose so. It's so sad. And being 41 as well, it's not like you have a bloody fortune that you get to split up, or like this huge inheritance to split up for the kids and stuff. That's not there. And also, what are you meant to do? Sell the house that you're living in and then give the money to the kids and then you have to go and buy another house somehow? Like, that's not fair either. Yeah, and also, there's not a great deal of information here either. All the best with it, OP. The next one that we're going to read is on entitled people. Lady gets her iPad stolen and decides it should be everybody's problem. I work as an administrator in an elementary school. Last Monday morning, a very agitated co-worker came in asking for help. Apparently somebody broke into a mother's car and stole her iPad while she was dropping her kid off. That's really bad. Only I have access to the surveillance footage, so of course I agree to help. I only need to know which car it was and where it was parked. We both went out to look for the mum so I can ask her this. She was yelling at a group of teachers, demanding the camera footage and saying that she knew that this school was horrible and full of thieves. She was so upset that she didn't even want to talk to me and just left in a rage. I thought that was very understandable, to be honest. I went over to her kid's teacher to ask exactly how it happened, and then everything turned really awkward. The mum's car wasn't in our parking lot when it happened. She decided to leave it out on the street so she could save time. She left her car unlocked. The iPad in a bright pink case was on the passenger seat. She never activated the Find My feature. Because it wasn't on school grounds, there was no clear camera footage. The best I could find was her car in the distance with passing traffic blocking the view. I watched the whole 10 minutes starting from where they got off the car to when she realized the iPad wasn't there anymore and came storming back. I saw several people pass by during that time, but at no point could the actual theft be seen. I did notice a blurry man took a longer time than everybody else walking by her car, so I pointed that out when we sent her the footage. The mum was pissed. She said the footage was useless and she couldn't even see who the man was or where he was heading, but sadly there was nothing else we could do. She threw a big fuss and even put a bad Google review claiming that this school covers up for thieves. Apparently she wanted us to pay for the damages. It's been a week now and she's finally calmed down. Such a boring ending to this story, but I'm just baffled at the entitlement of wanting everybody else to pay for her ridiculous mistakes. Yeah, that's so wild. I get being upset about that, of course, but blaming other people when it's not their fault? Nah. And also to have the audacity to write that review too. That's terrible. The top comment says, her. The camera footage proved that there was no school involvement. Instead, all responsibility for parking an unlocked car on a public street is on her. Yeah, of course, and that's super obvious too, but apparently not to them. No, this is somebody else's fault, not mine. Yeah, this comment, that's why she's so upset. She can't blame anybody but herself, so she's going to blame everybody but herself. Yeah, a lot of people do that we read about, don't they? Like the cheating people that we read about. They cannot blame anybody else, but they still do. Like, oh nah, it's actually your fault that I had an affair. Oh yeah, how does that make sense? It doesn't. Post number 4 is called, Am I the gay hoe for going on a girls trip instead of taking care of my husband after surgery? I, 24 female, have been planning a girls trip with my sisters and 2 friends for the past year and a half. We spent 2 weeks in Greece and I just got back yesterday. Several months ago, my husband was told that he needed his wisdom teeth out and was given several surgery date options. One for 3 months ago, one for the week I'd be gone, and 2 or 3 options in October. The clinic was pretty booked out and my husband was in some pain, so I suggested that he take the soonest available appointment to not only get it over with but fix his pain sooner, plus I'd be out of the country for the next available one. He didn't want to take the soonest one because it was too soon, and he said he wasn't mentally prepared, and I assumed that meant he'd just wait until October. My husband informed me 3 weeks before I left for my trip that he'd booked the time slot and that he'd need me to stay home and take care of him. I told him that wasn't happening and he needed to either pick a later date or have somebody else help him. We fought, but ultimately it was decided that my mother-in-law would come take care of him and I'd still go. Over the trip I spoke to them both a few times and his surgery went fine and I continued with my trip. When I got home, my mother-in-law confronted me saying how horrible of a wife I was and that I'd neglected my husband and chose my friends over him. My husband's still angry and his entire family's pissed at me. I feel like he had several options and knew fully well that I wouldn't be home on the date that he chose, that he sprung it on me way too last minute to change my plans or get any kind of refund, and I made it clear that I'd be going. He tried to justify it by saying the first date was too soon and the later dates were too far away, and I had to understand that he could only only do it that week. Am I the a-hole? I don't think so, OP. I don't think he wanted you to go on this trip though. I feel like that's pretty obvious. The top comment says, wisdom teeth. I thought you were going to say he had some major surgery. Sheesh, I took care of myself after my wisdom teeth extraction. Not the a-hole, but I'm never sure if stories like this are fake. I mean, wisdom teeth? The comment below that says, any oral surgery really messes me up for a few days. But even then, he scheduled it then on purpose, and he had his mum. Yeah, also when OP gave him options too, and he literally could have got it done before they left on their trip. He just didn't want you to go on the trip, OP. The comment below that says, not the a-hole. His reason for booking it when you're going to be gone doesn't make sense. He played a game and you chose not to. The comment below that says, my husband informed me 3 weeks before I left for my trip that he'd booked the time slot and he'd need me to stay home and take care of him. Nice try, not the a-hole. Don't take any crap from him or anybody else in his family. Tell each and every one of them the dates that he had to choose from, and that he purposely chose a date when he knew that you'd be on your trip. He's just pissed because you didn't let him sabotage your trip. It was a wisdom teeth surgery, not a triple bypass. What a baby. I didn't have to have my mummy move in with me when I had mine out. I'm sorry that you married an adult toddler. Maybe his mum would like to have him back. Yeah, that is pretty rough to be fair. And your partner's going on this fun trip as well. And instead of being supportive and hoping the best for them, you're making them feel like crap for even going. Yeah, this comment, he absolutely did this on purpose. He didn't want you to go. I had my wisdom teeth out 2 at a time, so 2 separate surgeries. I was back to taking care of my kids the same day. My boyfriend recently had his taken out and said that it wasn't nearly as bad as he thought. He didn't even need painkillers. He's manipulating you. Yeah, it does definitely seem like a controlling sort of move. This comment says, Lord, I would have laughed in his face. Wisdom teeth. The fact that he needed his mummy to come take care of him says all I need to know about him. You're not the gay hole. He seems a bit manipulative. Yeah, that was 100% done on purpose, OP. He did not want you to go on that trip. Post number 5 is called, Am I the gay hole for telling my husband I cheated on him, even though I didn't? So I, 26 female, have been married to my husband, 30 male, for 6 years. About 2 years into our marriage, I found out that my husband had cheated on me with a high school friend that he met at one of his friend's wedding. I didn't go with him because it was a few days after the delivery of my first baby. Oh God. He claimed that it was just a one-time mistake, that he had a few drinks too many, and that he regretted it. Ugh. I believed him. I wanted to believe him. At that time, our daughter was only 1, and I didn't want to break up our family over something that he swore was a mistake. I quote-unquote forgave him, or at least I thought I did. I convinced myself that it was something that I could be okay with because I was afraid to start over. But honestly, I was too young and inexperienced to fully understand how deeply that hurt me. 3 years into the marriage, we had our second child, our son, who's now 3. Around that time, I found out that my husband didn't just cheat once. He cheated multiple times with different women during the early years of our marriage. I found out when my mother-in-law's birthday was coming up, and I wanted some pictures of her for a collage that I wanted to make for her. I was scrolling through my husband's phone when I found screenshots of women's profiles from dating apps. So I went through his messages from years ago to find out that he'd been cheating on me even before the girl from the wedding. The texts were usually vague but enough to confirm my suspicions. I confronted him, and at first he tried to deny it, but I had the proof. The messages dates exactly matched the periods that he'd reassured me that everything was good. He then gave up on the lie. When he finally confessed, he collapsed into sobs, gripping my hand, saying how much he hated himself for what he'd done, telling me how in those days he'd been foolish and immature and afraid of losing me. He begged me not to leave him. He promised that he'd changed. He said that it was not something that he'd done since we had our son, and that his family meant the world. Yeah, don't fall for that crap, OP. That doesn't excuse any of that behavior, ever. Admittedly, his apology really got to me. I hesitated when I saw how broken he looked. I couldn't determine if it was sincere regret or desperation or guilt. I told him I forgave him even though I never really did. The trust was broken and the anger persisted despite my best efforts to move on. Since then, he's been acting like the perfect husband, as if to compensate for what he did. I'll admit that it felt good to be the center of his attention after so long, but for the last 2 years I've been nothing but tolerating him, because when I look at him all I see is lies. Yeah, okay, so why the hell are you with him, OP? What is even going on here? Why are you even still with this guy? Now getting to the title. Last weekend after putting the kids to sleep, I decided to tell him that I cheated on him. I didn't, but I wanted him to feel even a fraction of the pain and betrayal that I've been carrying all of these years. When I told him, he was crushed. His face went pale and he just kept on saying, no, you wouldn't. You couldn't. He begged me for details. When? Who? How could you do this to us? How could you do this to us? Oh, that's so funny of a cheater to say. Oh, how could you do this to us? The exact thing that I did. He couldn't believe that I'd thrown away everything that we've been working to rebuild. Yeah, that's a bit rich, isn't it? He said he thought we were finally in a good place and this destroyed him. I told him, I expect you to forgive me, just like I forgave you. Now he's completely heartbroken, barely speaking to me, acting like he's the victim here. He says that what I did is worse because we're finally getting better, and now I've torn us apart. Part of me feels guilty as if I manipulated him, but another part of me thinks he needed to experience even a piece of what I went through. So, am I the a-hole? Like, I guess not, but what the hell are you doing, OP? Why the hell are you still with them? Like, that's so frustrating. Separate, for God's sake. Don't play these stupid games with each other. Break up. Yeah, the top comment, just divorce him already. The comment below that says, OP, while making your partner as miserable as he made you is some eye for an eye level of revenge, what exactly is your end goal here? You need to figure out if you want to stay with him or leave, because he's definitely going to cheat again, unless you put a baby monitor on him or something. I'd recommend leave personally, because nobody who loves you cheats on you repeatedly. Oh yeah, the only option here is to leave. They don't love each other. There's an unbelievable amount of resentment for each other here. Of course they need to break up. This comment says, what exactly is your goal here? Good job, you hurt him back 2 years after. Now you want to rebuild more? That doesn't make any sense. Yeah, this comment, just break up. What the Yeah, 100%. Yeah, also this comment, you the a-hole for staying with him and playing games instead of just leaving. I think it's funny in a petty way, but it's not really any way to live your life or any kind of situation to raise children in. And unfortunately, admitting to your own infidelity won't help you in a divorce. Even if it's a lie, now you have to prove that it was a lie. Like, what was the end goal here? This comment says, everybody sucks. Either try to rebuild the relationship or leave. You've got a family. Why are you playing stupid games? Yeah, definitely seems like an everybody sucks situation. I feel for the kids too. What a toxic environment to be in. And yeah, all this petty sort of stuff is pointless, OP. Separate and move on. The next one's called, am I the a-hole for reading a hurtful journal entry about my sister-in-law after my brother and his wife read my private journals? Growing up, I 32 male used to journal. To my knowledge, nobody knew about it or read the heartfelt thoughts that I recorded. And if they did, they never disclosed that my privacy had been breached. Journaling became a source of comfort, so I continued well into my teenage years. As a male, I felt a bit self-conscious about it, so I used to hide the fact. My parents are moving, and since they've had this house since my childhood, there's a lot of packing and organizing and decluttering to do. As they're older, they do need some help. So my brother, 39 male, and I came over to assist. While helping them, I found my brother and his wife, 38 female, huddled together, snickering as they read through a journal. It was just a regular composition book, but instinctively I knew it was one of my special journals by the sound of their stupid giggles. So I asked, isn't that mine, as I walked over. I didn't know exactly what they were reading, but I knew it was obviously personal and none of their business. I told my brother to give it back, and when I reached out for it, he told me to chill out and snatched it back. We ended up wrestling over the book. Is this real? I can't imagine this happening. Causing enough commotion for my parents to come and see and ask what was going on. That sentence right there sounded like it was straight out of a movie or something. Surely you didn't actually wrestle over this. He says something like, you guys have to hear this, and starts reading the entry out loud. His wife is outright laughing and he's struggling to read full sentences without breaking into laughter. The memory of what they're reading comes flooding back and I feel a wave of huge embarrassment. I was 15 at the time and my 22-year-old brother had just started dating a girl, his now wife, who I thought was hot and way out of his league. That journal, without exaggeration, is nearly 2 decades old, and yet they were getting a real kick out of themselves, exchanging comments to my detriment and wanting to take pictures of the page. My annoyance turned to irritation. Yeah, she was attractive, but within 2 years of their relationship, I realized that she was ugly inside. I still feel the same way today. I remember writing something harsh about it in one of my journals when I was 18. It stands out because it happened right after my grandmother passed away, and her behavior during our time of mourning felt selfish and insensitive. She's still that kind of person. So I retrieved the journal that contained that particular passage and I read it aloud too. I'll admit that what I wrote was mean and about how negatively I perceived her character. I told them everything written was my most up-to-date view of her, as nothing has changed about them. I truly find them to be insufferable and unpleasant people. Things went quiet and then my brother acted like he wanted to fight me, and they eventually left. Now, days after, my brother's blaming me for triggering her depression, which I didn't even know she struggled with. He says that she's been questioning her character and my words are really getting to her. I reminded him of the passage that I wrote when I was 15, the one that they read aloud and found so amusing, and suggested that he refer back to that if he wants to cheer her up. He's telling anybody who'll listen that I unnecessarily hurt the feelings of his wife and that I'm an a-hole. So am I the a-hole? Okay, so if this one is real, which it didn't really sound like it was real, no, not the a-hole, OP. The top comment says, not the a-hole, they wanted to read your innermost thoughts and feelings. You only gave them more of what they wanted. This comment says, not the a-hole, they're violating your privacy. They messed around and they found out. And also this comment, bullies hate having their own behavior thrown back at them. They dish it out, but they can't take it when you give it back. It kinda sounds like she should be questioning her character, not the a-hole. The next one's on the entitled people subreddit. You're not next. My husband and I went into the bank to do a wire transfer. He already knew the regular tellers couldn't help us, but we had to go through their process to get checked in. So once we did that, we noticed 3 other groups waiting, so we stepped aside. In waltzed the Queen. She walked in, assessed the line in front of her, over the people waiting and took her chances on waiting outside the door of one of the senior tellers, which was a hot commodity. The teller was apparently on the phone, so she waited outside the door. It's a small town, so I magnanimously thought that she was waiting to give some congratulations. Nope, she sat down, pulled out an envelope and started pulling out papers. Another customer saw this, shook her head but didn't do anything. I was not so demure. I walked over and I said, "Excuse me, ma'am, there are several people waiting, including myself, and you just cut in front of all of us." She said, "Oh, I didn't know, I'm so sorry." But she continued to sit there. To his credit, the person whose office she occupied said, "I had no idea others were waiting. Please, ma'am, wait in the lobby." To the entitled person who was sitting in the chair, she gave me a death glare and looked like she was sucking on a lemon while she waited in the line. She made it to the front of the teller line as we were called forward. I asked our agent if he noticed what had happened. I explained it and he said that level of entitlement was all too common in our small town. Yeah, that's the thing about stuff like this. I feel like this would happen every day, probably multiple times a day. This comment says, "You did the right thing by confronting her. She'll hopefully learn to not be entitled one day." The comment below that says, "She'll come here and flip the story." Yeah, 1,000,000%. I don't feel like entitled rude people like this really ever learn their lesson. They're not suddenly going to be like, "Oh, I'm rude. I'm super entitled." They'll probably just keep on blaming everybody else. And yeah, that's super frustrating. And I feel like that's enough for today. That was such a fun episode. I hope you guys had a good time today. I've got 2 cute, wholesome memes to show you before we go. Positive attitude, minus setback. The positive attitude absolutely destroys the minus setback. Yeah, that's so beautiful and so true too. It is actually like that. Like what? You think you can affect me? Get out of here. When you're in the backseat desperately trying to be a part of the front seat conversation. Yeah, I feel like we can all relate to this. Like, hey guys, what are you talking about? Especially if you're in a car where you can't even really hear what they're saying in the front seat. That's so funny. Thank you for watching, everybody. I hope you had a wonderful time today. And if you did, make sure you subscribe if you want to. And the comment of the day today goes to Oingo Della Boingo. That's such a good name. It's all my daughter's fault. Guy who raised her. Yeah, oh my god. How much stuff do we read like that? Where people don't take any accountability for anything. Every single episode we read about that in some way or another. And yeah, it's definitely frustrating, but also entertaining at the same time. Okay, I'm out of here. Thank you for all the support, everybody. Make sure you look after yourself and make sure you have a beautiful, amazing rest of your day. And I'll see you in tomorrow's episode. Bye!